100%.
Hey, around we go, playing that game. Some movies be done, they want us to stay. Hey, around we go.
Hyperinflate Instagram. Or...
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Irreplaceable Truths. And it's one of our special episodes. We're here with our buddy from Veterinary Vibes. How you doing, Garth?
I am doing great. Thank you for having me on again. And always love to just sit and chat with you and kind of update you with what's going on, get your input. And...
all the BS that's veterinary medicine. I'm here. I'm here. So, how are things been? It's been a few weeks since I sat down with you.
No, it's been great. It's been an opportunity for me to just again absorb everything that's going on. You were in my shoes at one point. I don't know my ass from my elbow half the time, and it's really good to have the direction from really good veterinarians, really good support staff, and just being able to ask them any question. I feel like I'm getting really comfortable with asking questions about anything and just trying not to approach it with the imposter syndrome, with this is a dumb question, because I have asked dumb questions where I feel like I should know that, but I feel like if I don't ask that question, maybe somebody else that was with me on rotation needed that answer too, and they were just too afraid. So I don't know. I feel like it's much better for me to just ask it, especially if it's involving a patient, you know?
Or do you have any of those types of students that just ask stupid questions just so they can hear themselves? I mean, we had a few of those. It was like, oh, really?
I plead the fifth on that one, but to be honest, all jokes aside, there is somewhere I'm just like, that is an unnecessary question. I don't think it's a dumb question, but I think there's just unnecessary ones where they get hyper fixated in their mind about something and they start playing the what if happens, what if this, what if an asteroid fell and hit us, kind of questions. And I think that's not a good way to approach it.
Well, if you have an asteroid that's about to fall down and hit you, one of the ways that people do, that their, offshore money is you buy insurance policies for nothing that American companies will cover you for, which basically would be fire insurance now in California, right? But one of the things that they would take out buy a $10 million policy, pay $10 million to their insurance company they opened up in the Caymans for asteroid strike.
A little offshore embezzling going on or what?
No, I mean, the problem is what I've learned in life is that you make too much, but you don't make enough.
Right.
You're in that fishbowl, that cesspool of you're going to get nailed with every single tax there possibly could be. And even though you pay your taxes, they're still going to come after you for wanting more. Yeah. And veterinary, early career veterinary students have to understand that taxes are a real deal. I had so many veterinarians and also veterinary technicians and assistants that never filed taxes. And then all of a sudden they went to go get a car loan and they're like, oh, I can't get a car loan. I can't get a mortgage. I can't rent anything. It's because they never filed their taxes.
That baffles me.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Well, they don't teach any business in vet school.
Well, I think the first thing to know is common sense isn't that common. You got to sit there and say, someone might not know that we think is so common. And again, that's why I go back to, especially people ask me, why did you want to become a veterinarian so late in your life, quote unquote late? Now I'm in my 30s. A lot of these students are 23, 24, 25. And although that sounds like such a little age gap, I was really blessed and lucky to have the opportunity to learn those hard mistakes early on and be a lot more independent at an early age, like directly at 18 years old. I was across the country. So for me, I think it was a good experience and a humbling experience, and it's kind of why it makes me more appreciative now of the moments that I do have. So yeah, that's one of the big things for me.
Yeah, I mean, well, you're a Marine, so that really sets you up for this bumpy ride they call veterinary education, right? Yeah, it's a very turbulent ride. I mean, just it's like right out of the get-go. I grew up with auditory processing issues, so I actually created a photographic memory. So if I see something, I remember how to do it. Done. And it pissed the hell out of my wife because she was one of those students that would sit there and study. And I will, and everyone was getting to me. They're like, "Oh, you're going to vet school. You're going to have to study a lot." So first week in vet school, we had neuroanatomy. It was a whole 5 credit it was the anatomy of the brain.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh my goodness. I'm like, holy cow, I need to read this, right? I was a chemistry major, took the basic biology classes, and I remember we had to read for a class. And I'm like, okay, I got to read to be prepared.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, was sitting there reading away, no problem. It took the chemistry major 5 hours to read 3 pages because I had to look up every single word they were using.
Right.
Rostral, cranial, you name it. I didn't know I didn't know anything they were talking about. So I'm like, okay, I finally got through it. Took me about 6-7 hours to read the assignment. Went to class the next day. I did the wrong fucking assignment.
Oh, no.
I read the wrong pages.
You were well-versed in something.
I was. The last time I really sat down and did a lot of homework. I was always under the impression that C equals DVM. I always used that math equation in my head. You know, you just, they say C's get degrees, but, it wasn't that. It was just like I made sure I kept my social life going, too, while I was in vet school, which I think is very important for a lot of veterinary students to hear.
Yeah.
You need some way to recover from that stress that they call, quote unquote, education. So what do you do to get away from the education?
Oh, wow. Well, this, for one, I think we become so absorbed with veterinary medicine that it becomes our only identity. And this is the foundation of where the root of the problems happen. As you see those practitioners later on still suffering from, I am a veterinarian and that is all I am. And I think we're getting away from that as time goes on because we are seeing all the negative side effects of this root problem come out. So for me, I have a team girl dad. I've got my daughter. She's now almost 1.5 years, which is insane how much time has gone by. Having her in vet school has been a challenge, but it's another outlet for me away from veterinary medicine, which I really love. Me and my wife, we love to go hiking. We play video games. We watch a lot of shows together. We were able to kind of decompress and not mesh together both of because our careers are, although she's in the human medical field, I'm in animal. We really try to separate ourselves once that time goes of, hey, I'm closing my books, I'm closing the laptop. We're now not going to be dissecting anything about school or work. It's really easy to, when you set those boundaries, I think for us, it's a lot easier. So for me, I definitely try to take that little time that I do have. Like today, we just went to the park. We walked around Laguna Regional Park. Took her down the slide and everything. And I wasn't thinking 1 second about school or anything yet. That is a reset for me. And that forces me to reset myself. And some people don't really have that reset button. They just continually go and go and go and go. And Energizer just got a free ad in this, but literally they don't stop going. And
we used to call those people the gunners.
Yeah.
Right? They start out so freaking strong and then they just fall off a cliff.
Right.
Or those are the ones that, see, I love vet school because I made sure I went to football games, basketball games, the bars. I drank during anatomy.
Yeah. The good old days.
The good old days, right? I mean, we used to have a lot of fun doing the things we were doing. And I thought it was an extension of my undergrad almost.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Except instead of taking 12, 13 hours a semester, I was taking 25. So, but you had to balance. You had to balance it. I'm very interested. Your wife completely supported you going to vet school.
Yeah. So I actually would have never even gone to college if my wife didn't encourage me to do it. I believe wholly that that a good foundation in your family and in your partner, in somebody that can encourage you and balance and offset you and disagree with you, can propel you further in life. And that's something that I've tussled with a lot because I like arguing sometimes. I like...
You like poking the bear.
I like poking the bear and, and I'm stubborn, and so for me...
So you're just, a 20-year younger version of me.
Maybe. Yeah.
Except, yeah, you still have your hair.
Almost. It's going. We'll show the camera. It's going, guys.
The widow's peak is
the
real.
widow's peak is coming in. But you know what? I don't even care. It's just,
well, you're a Marine. You're used to that.
I'm gonna look like you soon. Maybe I'll get this studio too.
Well, I heard a quote that's that someone said. They said, God only made so many few people that look good with hair. Everyone else he had to give hair to.
I like that. Yeah.
Right. So that's the way I live my life.
Or maybe he just put them on your back.
Yeah, but actually, my third daughter did this to my hair. But
third daughter. Yeah. So I have a lot to look forward to.
Have you had a lot of problems with relationships in your veterinary class breaking up? Because no one really understands what you're going through. The only people who understand it are the people who've done it,
sure,
and the people who are doing it.
To be quite honest, I don't really follow the trends, and I honestly assume wrong every time, because when I do see someone together for too long, I assume that they are a couple, and I ask them, when are you guys getting engaged? And they are like, what? And they just don't know what to say, because I've either awkwardly introduced myself inappropriately, like I always do. But yeah, I mean, the couples that I do see, or the people that are hanging out together, I mean, some are going strong because they have, like you said, that ability to understand each other. They're in the suck together. They're embracing the suck together, and that's what makes your relationship stronger. And that's why you see a lot of veterinarians, a lot of human medical doctors, cops ending up with nurses. They trauma bond, essentially.
Correct.
And that's their way of understanding each other.
So you calling veterinary school a trauma that you're going through?
For some people, it is, yeah, 100%. For me, it's not. I think I'm having a great time, to be honest.
And it's very interesting because I sat down with my advisory committee for my dissertation, and Dr. Peter Weinstein's on my advisory committee, and I'm completely blessed for that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But he explained it to my professors like this. He said, veterinary school is a very, very turbulent flight. And either you're going to, and what's really hurting these veterinary students is either they're going to land and have a nice soft landing, meaning they get into a veterinary clinic that's good, or they're going to have a very hard landing, which you land in a veterinary clinic they shouldn't have been at, whether it be a toxic culture, lack of leadership, lack of mentoring, lack of emotional help, lack of mental help, all those things. And the problem is that these veterinary students are not only having one rough landing, they'll have 1, 2, 3 in a row. And then all of a sudden they're like, WTF, why am I doing this? This profession is just awful. So is there any advice your school's giving you at all right now? Or are you just learning by doing what you're doing, working at all these different clinics, knowing what you want?
Yeah, I know. I definitely know what I want, which is nice to say. Some students don't really know. You can ask them, and I still think that's okay. Not putting blinders on is great. And I'm very blessed to have Peter Weinstein as one of my professors and close friends too that I can reach out to and ask those questions. And a lot of really good professors do come from my school that I actually just had a conversation with today. And it was a simple question. I'm struggling. Do I do 4 weeks of diagnostic imaging, or do I do 4 weeks of ophthalmology? And for me, I was in this pendulum of what should I do, but I would
do ophthalmology.
Right. And some people would argue the other way around.
But the thing is that, what do you mean diagnostic imaging? Are you talking radiology, or are you talking ultrasound?
I'm talking every type of imaging modality.
You're not going to learn every
CT,
type of imaging modality in 4 weeks.
Right. But for me, I want to utilize ultrasonography a lot in the clinics that I go to. I think that's an important skill that a lot of people lack. And I understand you're going to send out radiology reports. I'm not going to be reading CTs at a GP. I totally understand that.
Basically,
I'm going to be doing a lot more ophthalmology diagnosing and procedures.
Can you do an 18-week dermatology rotation? Because that's what you truly need.
Yeah, I have 4 weeks of dermatology already.
That's not enough.
Plus an extra 2 of independent study. So the thing is that there's only so much time in a year.
I understand.
That's the problem. And so I think for me, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm taking the times of where I go as a set schedule, and if I need or want more experience in that, that's why I'm doing the diagnostic imaging one, because it's at a large one of the largest in Houston, Texas. They have 80 boarded doctors there from all different types of specialties. So for me, that is a point for me to grow my network, to go. I got in. It's very hard to get into. I got in with diagnostic imaging, but I have the ability to kind of rotate through different facilities if I want to. So that's what I'm taking my vacation days doing, is peeking in surgery, peeking in, ophthalmology, peeking in neuro. Hey, can I learn this from you? Can I learn that from you? So for me, I think whatever I end up choosing, I'm not going to be upset about, because I'll make it work. Some people, they feel confined to that specific thing, that they're not going to learn anything. Remember, you have 477 years more experience than I do, right?
Yeah,
So
my first splenectomy was on a dinosaur.
I believe it, yeah. And you tied off, and you tied off, and you tied off.
Yeah, I used the vine.
Yeah.
We used the club for anesthesia.
Right.
Yeah, it worked. No, well, because I think this is a very important point, because, okay, what rotation should you take? I think the most important thing you can learn to do with an ultrasound right off the bat is just to be able to do the emergency scan,
Sure.
right?
A-fast or T-fast.
Yeah, just
there you go.
Quick. Because if you truly need a good ultrasound, you're going to have an ultrasound person come in and do it, right?
Absolutely.
Because it's a liability at that point. If you're like, trying to find a linear foreign body by ultrasound, even the specialists that have done ultrasound for 35 years have a hard time. And if you don't find it and you say, oh, no, I saw nothing, and all of a sudden that dog dies of a linear foreign body, you're screwed. I think when it comes to radiology, you need to be able to see the radiographs and say, I think there might be something going on. Boom, send it out for a radiology consult. It has really changed so much for your generation of veterinarians that are graduating. Ophthalmology is huge. Ophthalmology, remember, most of the stuff that happens in the eye is usually an emergency.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Right?
So
you need to know what's going on. You need to know it quick. You got to have your list of differentials pretty quick. Skin is huge. Cardiology is great. But again, unless you're going to really take like a 4-month course on how to do an echo correctly, it's not going to work.
Right.
You're going to have a cardiologist come out, a mobile cardiologist, or you're going to send them to a cardiology center. We're very blessed. We have wonderful internist cardiologists that are mobile in Southern California.
Yeah.
They have them in Houston. They have them in
any
Dallas.
major
But
city.
if you're going to go to Podunk, Oklahoma, you're going to be the cardiologist. You're going to be the ultrasound. So, yeah, that's probably a little more important. So it depends on where you're going to be and what you want to do geographically.
Right.
Because sometimes you're everything, right? If you're in a small town and the closest,
Especially mixed animal.
Oh yeah,
You're going to be doing a lot. You better learn real quick.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's the thing for me, though. So I know where I want to be after. I have like 3 kind of areas where I want to be, right? And so I said, okay, I'm going to do, these are my cores that I'm going to do, that they require us to do. I'm going to do general practice. I'm going to utilize that as a working interview for 4 weeks. I'm going to pick a general practice that I kind of think I want to end up at. I'm going to go there for 4 weeks. I'm going to do 4 weeks of dermatology. I'm doing 4 weeks of emergency medicine. I'm doing 4 weeks of ophthalmology, which I would like to do in total, and then the diagnostic imaging. I didn't choose surgery as a rotation because
you won't touch them.
I'll be the last guy in line. Right. But I'm also okay with that, because for me, if I can visualize and see the surgery happening in real time and ask those questions to the interns or to the residents or to the actual boarded surgeons, that puts me in a better light than not knowing anything about it and having to learn on YouTube or learn in a textbook. So I went to Western Veterinary Conference recently. I met up with a general practitioner that does a lot of laparoscopic work, really cool spays that he does, ovariectomies that he does. And I literally went to his talk, and it was funny because it was, I think it was called How to Spay a Bitch, or More Than One Way to Spay a Bitch, something like that. And he said he wanted to name it How to Cut a Bitch, but he felt like...
Well, we're allowed to say bitch in our profession, so that's why.
Yeah.
And it was so funny because when I sold to corporate, the name of my computer was Hands Off Bitches, because I worked with nothing but women, and they were so offended. And that just shows you that corporate doesn't get it. Because I can call... So finally, I knew they were very uncomfortable with that. And then anytime a dog would walk by while the regional manager was there or any of the high-ups, a dog would walk by and be like, hey, Mallory, is that a bitch?
Shut up, Mallory.
That is a big chest on that bitch.
Yeah.
Just that bitch is overweight. I would say that in front of them just to give them that, reality check of, hey, you don't know what the hell you're doing. I don't want to get triggered. We're not going to talk about corporate because
it's not even in corporate too. It happens everywhere. I think everyone is so, well, not everyone. A lot of people like to be offended. They like that defensive woe is me mentality. I don't understand it. I don't think I ever will understand it.
They're quick to cancel.
Yeah, and it's hard, you know.
Yeah.
It's hard because I think a lot of places, a lot of people that are misunderstood, or maybe that cross the line, their intentions are actually pure. If you really dissect that person down, unless they're just a complete asshole, sure. But at the end of the day, I think at least the people I surround myself with, their intentions are pure. And yes, boundaries can be made. I cross them all the time, and I have close friends that tell me, "Hey, that's a no-go for me." And if they tell me that in the beginning, and it's fairly reasonable most of the time, I'm like, "Oh, I totally understand, man. I was just playing around. I don't want to offend you or upset you. XYZ. It's not a big deal for me. I don't."
So here's the question, $1 million question. How are you going to figure out how far you can take it with the clients?
Well, you start by creating the client you want. You don't just treat everybody. You create boundaries and you set that standard at the beginning. I was listening to something recently, which I thought was really cool, and it talked about in communication, if you're approaching, and I try to take things outside of veterinary medicine because I find myself listening to a lot of stuff in veterinary medicine, and then I go, well, they've already been saying that. We've already been burnout. Okay, that's now a buzzword, right? That's mentorship. Okay, that's a buzzword that people are using. And I try to find a lot of those, like there's this attorney that talks about arguments, right? Mm-hmm. And when you're having a disagreement with a client per se, or whatever we're going into the rooms going, if you approach them saying, I want to win this argument, you've already lost the trust in relationship, and you'll never treat the patient.
Right.
You'll never really treat that patient as much as you want to. And if you do end up treating the patient, that will be the last time that you treat the patient. And that's the crazy thing.
And you got to be careful because that'll also be the patient that goes on Yelp.
Oh, yeah.
Calls the medical board.
Yep.
Tells 1,000 of their friends, hey, this guy's a real tool. You don't want to see him. So, you can be an asshole and be right. Like, those aren't two things. Right.
And you could do that all day long.
It's an art form that you have to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is that a lot of these veterinary students are perfectionists, and they realize that it's a lot different once you're in the real world, right? Yeah. You're not going to be able to do those extra credit to make sure you keep your 4.5. You're not going to be able to, schmooze the professor to make sure you keep the A. Mm-hmm. Once you're out, it's all on you, dude. It's all on you. And a lot of veterinarians, especially the younger ones, they get so upset because they're like, why doesn't this client like me? Mm-hmm. Why is this client saying I'm wrong? So it's very difficult to balance that.
Yeah.
All I can say is that it is a tool in your tool belt that you need to sharpen and you need to keep using in order to know how to use it correctly.
Do you feel like when you practiced, do you feel like your communication skills, your client interactions were at the level that you thought they were at, or do you think that you were blinded by the workload? Because
no, I was ready because I had a very good realism going into veterinary school of what was going on. I mean, I was 5 years. I started as a kennel boy, ended as the practice manager. I had two amazing mentors that, one who actually packed up my U-Haul and drove it out to Illinois with me from North Carolina. I knew what to expect. I knew the right ways and wrong ways to treat staff members. I knew the right ways and wrong ways to treat clients. I learned the importance of communicating to clients no matter what. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you have to swallow your pride, and it's very hard. But the one thing it did not prepare me for was how emotionally exhausted I was, yet I needed to give every appointment, that's every 20 minutes, the same empathy, the same feeling, the same, hey, I truly care about your situation. Mm-hmm. That is hard.
Yeah.
Because you get to around 4:30 and you're like, dude, I just want to go home. Mm-hmm. I just want to sit on the couch. I want to watch Monday Night Football. There's like but you keep doing it. What was that movie with Matt Damon and Leo? Matt Damon, Leo was the undercover cop in Boston, and Matt Damon was the actual cop that was actually crooked and working with Jack Nicklaus. I forget what that was called, but Leo was required to go see a shrink. And he was the last appointment of the day. And the shrink goes, why is it always that the last appointment is always the hardest one? And Leo looks her in the eyes. He goes, because I'm the last fucking appointment.
Yeah. The answer is right in front of him.
So, I mean, you got to learn to balance that. You got to be able to just keep that energy all day.
So then do you believe that...
Like the 9 a.m. appointment's a lot easier than the 4:30.
I believe it, yeah. Unless you had a shitty night before, then it might be harder. Get in your groove, you know?
No, you know, you always get in your groove. Once you get in there, because it's like your second family. Your veterinary clinic is going to be your second family.
Yeah.
You spend more time with your practice manager, your other doctors, your RVTs, your kennel attendants. You spend more time with them than you actually do with your family. If you think about it, right? If you work, let's say 8:30 to 6, 8:30 to 6:30, the 10-hour workday. Oh, wow, 10 hours. But 10 hours a day, right?
Yeah.
Your young kids are going to be in bed by what time? 8 o'clock?
Yeah.
7:30? So if you're lucky, you get 30 minutes with them. If you're lucky, you get 30 minutes with them when they get up before they have to get to school, and you get in the car and you go away, you know, go back to work. It's truly a problem. And I was talking to my wife, you know, when you look at creating your professional identity, I always look at that as like the values aspect. And if your number one value to you as a young, early career veterinarian is work-life balance, you might want to be a radiologist. You know what I mean? You might want, because you never know what's going to walk in.
Especially early on.
Oh, yeah, because you got to build. You got to grind. You got to build your clientele that trusts you. You got to build.
And also, you got to think, remember, you're day one. Like, I don't have the hindsight you have yet. You know, I only have the experience of what I've been through now in the clinics that I'm rotating through. And I'm going, God, that took me like 45 minutes of going back and looking on Vin, looking up Merck, looking at different textbooks. And this doctor just walked in and is like, oh, yeah, no, it's that. Blah, 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 and then just walks. It was 8 seconds. And for me, I didn't visualize. He's like, no, it's not because
you try to make it too difficult. You definitely try to make it,
Common things happen commonly, and I don't know what's common yet, per se. Like, I know some of the common stuff. You can sit there and label off all the differentials, but, you know, it's... And then you get that weird case. Like, we had the weird case recently. It was like a 1-year-old domestic short hair.
I used to call them the goat fuck cases.
Yeah, I was asking all the doctors, and they're like, I don't know what's going on. And it's such an appropriate response because it was so weird. It had an enema done 2 days before, had 105-degree fever the next day. They thought, uh-oh, someone messed up at another place, and now we're here. But then threw the kitchen sink at it. Nothing was responding. Everything, white blood cells, everything was diving. And then they're like, maybe it's some immune-mediated thing. It was a cat. And so it was like, hey, we're going to give him 24 hours. The owner's like, we're going to give him 24 hours at this point. And so they just dumped a bunch of steroids at it and prayed to God it lived.
How high was the fever?
I was like 105.5.
So what is it? Right off the bat, any fever that high in a cat, first on top of your differential.
Well, septicemia, maybe? Like,
no.
What?
Viral.
Really? Even after the enema? Because what if I had a perforated bowel or rectum, whatever?
Okay, first off, if they're septic, usually they come in with a low temperature because they're in shock. Second, their blood sugar should be low if they're septic.
Yeah. No, it was, though. The thing is that it presented, all the ER doctors there, they pitched it to me like this is a septic cat.
Okay, so if it was septic, if it was a perf, first thing you do is you put a freaking ultrasound probe and look for fluid in the
There was no fluid.
Then it's viral.
Yeah. And that's the other thing. So they started testing all that. Then they did FUO, fever of unknown origin.
Yeah.
And so we waited for that. It was one of those. I'm not kidding. I mean, at least for me.
Well, the white blood cells are crashing.
Yeah.
Right? And it has a fever that high. Right. Fever of unknown origin. Autoimmune. Viral.
Yeah.
Cancer. Those are your three.
Yeah, because I think they were talking about panleukopenia.
FIP.
Yeah, all that came back negative.
Feline leukemia
all that
in the bone marrow.
And that was the thing. That's if it stumps them, and some of them they've been doing this for 25, 30 years. I'm like, that sounds so normal. Like even you just asked me that question. Okay, I'm still turning my brain now, thinking about, well, what the hell? Why wouldn't I just think of that right away? You've had the experience of seeing probably hundreds of cases that presented with fevers.
again, it's my photographic memory. So that as soon as I heard FUO and those three things, I knew. Like, as soon as I went to a lecture one time at, I go to ACBIM. That's the only one I go to.
You told me that.
Yeah. She goes, there's 6 reasons that people become DKA. Dogs do, cats do. Because dogs and cats can live with diabetes their whole life, but something pushes them into the emergent stage, right? And she's like, these are the 6 things. I remember those 6 things just like that. You know, so it's really easy. I mean, you can't remember. If you cannot remember hypercalcemia, hard-ons, it's hard-ons. If you have a hypercalcemic, go through hard-ons, and you'll be fine.
So do you break down everything in your head? Do you put a bunch of acronyms and stuff?
It's hard-ons. Hyperparathyroidism.
Okay.
Addison's. Rodentocide toxicity. Vitamin D toxicity. O is for cancer, and S is for spurious, meaning it's a lab error. Those are your 6. The boom.
Yeah.
Boom. And that's the problem, is that you keep everything simple. Keep it simple. Keep everything simple. Like a fever that high, cat, boom, viral. I think viral right off the bat. You know, why was the cat constipated? Well, could have cancer, right? No one,
especially at 1 year old though.
Then it was probably FIP.
Yeah. That came back negative.
You can't really fucking test for that test. I don't care. They have the FIP7B, the FI this,
if it's quacking like a duck, it looks like a duck.
Yes.
I know that's the thing for me. I mean, those are the learning moments for me where I look at that and I bank that in my mind, and I'm like, I still run it through. I haven't got back and got an update of it. It literally just happened, so I have no
idea what
update.
Happened. Yeah. But I mean, that's the thing. The thing is, like, I just hope just remember to keep everything simple.
Yeah.
When you come out of school, keep it simple. You will see the same gosh darn things over and over and over and over and over. So you can't be that hard. Going back to your vet school class, how many of them came in with anxiety, do you think?
Oh, probably 90% or more. With anxiety, like...
Not anxiety to be in vet school, just anxiety as a personal problem.
Oh, as a person? I'd say if you polled the class, I'd probably say like 80 to 90%. Yeah, probably. I've had some bout of anxiety, but I also think that's generational.
Right, but you got to think about this too, though. You got this anxiety, and then you got this emotional exhaustion, and then they're not doing anything to release, you know, or you know.
Oh yeah, I just teach like myself. Burnout is inevitable. Imposter syndrome is inevitable. It's gonna happen. If you have the tools to deal with it, that's what's more important than trying to avoid it. Everyone's like, avoid burnout, avoid this, avoid that. You're going to get run down. You're going to get beat up. You're going to get ran over at a certain point in your career.
What makes up burnout? This is the problem.
Okay.
This is the problem I have with the veterinary burnout literature. I think it's great literature, but it's not deep enough. And that's where I come in. But burnout, 3 things that cause it. Emotional exhaustion, lack of self-worth, and depolarization, which means like you just go sit yourself in a cave and you don't interact with anyone anymore. You have to have those 3 things to technically be burnout. The problem is a lot of people just look at emotional exhaustion as burnout. And there's a lot more that goes to it than that. So
yeah, but if you get to the same answer and you only have one variable that's contributing to that, isn't that the same thing? Because I can become so emotionally disconnected from something.
That's depolarization.
Okay, so you know what I mean? If I just have that specific thing where I completely shut off myself, I no longer can function.
But why did you shut yourself off?
Because I was burned out. Because of work overload, emotional
exhaustion.
Okay, emotional exhaustion.
You cut yourself off, and you probably fucked up.
So you're adding those 3 up.
Right, you have to have those 3.
Okay.
You probably fucked up somewhere, or you don't, like imposter syndrome is lack of self-worth. And that's the problem. And that's why these students who have anxiety, anxiety just totally elevates it to a whole nother level. So, you know, veterinary students who are feeling anxiety need to get that mental health now. It's usually paid through the school. It will help them out. It will help them out.
Did you get that?
I didn't need that.
So do you think you're an outlier then, or what?
I really do.
Okay.
I really thought I was an outlier. You know, on the Myers-Briggs, on a scale of 0 to 30, 30 being the most extroverted you can be, I was a 30. A lot of veterinary students are very introverted, and you throw that, you know, an introverted person having to go in an exam room and discuss things with clients, it makes that's even more emotionally exhausting. So it's even harder for them. See, for me, I love talking to people.
Yeah.
I love hearing my own voice. I've been told I have so many opinions and so few filters, which is fine. I know my truth. But I never was exhausted talking to clients. I was exhausted dealing with the other bull that comes along with veterinary medicine.
The emotional toll or what?
Dealing with the staff,
Yeah.
dealing with the drama, dealing with husband and wife don't come in together, husband and wife going through a divorce, screaming kids in the exam room. There's a lot of other things that were in play. But, as we've discussed before, the euthanasia piece, I didn't realize how bad that was until I lost my entrepreneur hat and my managerial hat.
Yeah.
And I couldn't hide in those hats. See, I was able to get out of an exam room and say, oh, let me go look at the P&L, or let me go do some employee reviews, or let me, go do this or go do that. I try to make sure I dabbled. I make sure I always keep my life, I seem to keep it very complex with a lot of things going on. I try to spin 1,000 plates at a time so I can never, ever really just dive in on one thing. Because if I do, I'll learn to hate it, I'll get bored, or I get exhausted with it.
You sound like every vet. You said you're an outlier.
I am.
I feel like that. I feel like that's what vets do, though. They distract themselves from the core problem.
The vets that have been out longer than 10 years and still in the profession, we are the outliers.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, the ones that still want to stay in it after.
Right.
The ones that are done with it clinically and are still like, we got to fix this shit. That's why I like you. I like people that are wanting to, because for me, like, I don't know what to expect. I only am told what to expect.
No.
And then everyone's like, oh, it's actually not like that in the clinics.
You expect the unexpected.
Well,
you
what
don't
is it
know.
like then?
No. For you, you're going to have no problem because you've gone over and above while going through vet school to keep your job at a vet clinic, to make sure you go and do extra rotations, to make sure you do all that. You weren't just sitting there studying. You were doing other things to create a toolkit that is huge. You don't just have a hammer.
It's just because I know I don't learn that way. Like I can't open up.
No.
I can't open up Miller's and be like, oh, that's what that looks like here.
No, that's.
I need to be like, hey, can I come watch you?
You don't learn
cut that
surgery
thing up?
from slides because every single slide they have, there's no blood. You notice that?
Yeah, that's why anatomy lab was kind of hard for me because nothing looks the same. I'm like, wait, what color is that tissue? This spleen don't look like that over there.
Well, you cutting a dog or a cat. The arteries are not red and the veins are not blue.
Yeah. I wish we had that. We didn't even have stained stuff.
You didn't? Oh, wow.
Some stuff they did do that, when it was more of like hyper-focused, when they opened up the heart and then you can see coronary and all that stuff. But most of the specimens were just, they were pumped up and like, here's a brachial plexus. Like, have fun going through it. Like, I have a video and I know like, oh God, like peripheral nerve sheath tumors. Maybe I should think of that in the brachial plexus. And like thinking back to that video I made, because I would make like funny, stupid videos where I'm pulling the radial nerve out and I'm like, hey, this is the radial nerve. Isn't that rad? Like little stupid things like that where we had fun. That's the shit I remember. Weirdly. Like, why do I probably don't even need to know that.
Because it was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. And that's the thing. For me, that's why I started Veterinary Vibes. I want to make vet med fun again. And I only have the experience of other people that were in it for a long time.
But it's hard. That's the problem. It's hard to make it fun when a lot of these students come out with a lot of debt and they have that rough landing and that horrible first job.
Yeah.
Or and then the horrible second job and then the horrible third job. Mm-hmm. It's bad. I mean, I think to make veterinary medicine fun in the land of rainbows and unicorns, you would graduate vet school, you would get into the perfect job, you would build your clientele base, everyone would love you, everything would be great, everyone would do everything you said, there would be no question about the cost of care, there would be carte blanche.
Sure.
Veterinary medicine would have been incredible.
Yeah.
Do you know what I just described? The early 2000s. When I came out.
Yeah.
That's why it was so amazing.
Mm-hmm. And then when it hit
Oh, then COVID. I mean,
COVID. Not even that. Before that, you had your 08.
Oh yeah, 08, 9, 10.
That must have been rough.
You know, you got to learn how to pivot. Veterinary medicine's very slow to change, and I've said that on a few podcasts, and I apologize for repeating myself on that. But a lot of veterinarians don't pivot fast enough. They always say, "Oh, we've been doing it this way for 25 years, and it still works," right? Well,
you still get that today.
Oh, you still will?
It's the C word they don't want to say.
Right.
It's crazy.
Well, because when change is hard. Change takes energy. Most of these veterinarians are exhausted. They don't have the energy for change. So I think we need to work on the recovery of these people. We need to look at what do they do once they walk out of the clinic and start their car. That's an important piece that needs to be looked at. What do veterinarians do that recover successfully, right? Because my part, I'm looking at the first half, and I'm hopefully creating a roadmap for people to continue with the second half. But I'm looking at cortisol values on these early career vets. You and I know cortisol takes a long time to recover from. Can you imagine being spiked cortisol every single day you work for 30, 40 hours a week? How are you going to recover?
I was going to say, what do you want?
Yeah.
They did the same study on shelter dogs. They checked the cortisol values, and they're like, why are they all crazy? It's like, oh, because you cram them all in a room.
Yeah, exactly.
Screaming for 23 hours of the 24.
Right. Well, it's crazy. In the literature, though, there's no one that's ever looked at cortisol values of veterinarians with chronic stress. That's
just find all the bald ones and ask them.
No, no. My cortisol values. My cortisol values.
Here's from your testosterone overload.
Yeah, no. My cortisol values didn't spike until I sold.
Yeah.
And then
you just went off the rocker. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it's important for that recovery piece.
Yeah.
Everyone needs to now plan. Okay, what am I going to do to recover at night? Do I go home? Do I take the dog for a nice long walk? Do I go to the gym? Do I walk on the treadmill? Do I go to a yoga class? Do I go to church? Do I go out and eat and drink with friends and talk nothing about veterinary medicine? How do I get my mind off what I've been doing? And then also, the other thing you need to look at as well is sleep quality, right?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
But you're a Marine.
100%.
I was a swimmer for 20 years. I still wake up at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
No matter what time I go to bed.
My sleep is awful, so I'm not a good candidate to ask about
4
sleep
hours
quality.
is what I get. They recommend 7. But I've been on 4 hours since I was probably 12, right? So that's not a big change. But a lot of these veterinarians, they don't sleep. And then they also have a problem where, you have rumination when you get home, right? Sure. You keep thinking about, oh, shit, did I tie that off tight enough? Oh, did I send the lab work off? Oh, shoot, did I send home the right dose of prescription? Oh, man, I sent the dog to the emergency clinic. Is it doing okay? Like that type of rumination. There's some good rumination, but they're usually not, right? And then then the next morning, there's called preservative cognition, which is not only did you go through rumination all night, but you wake up the next morning and you worry, is this going to happen again today? Or am I going to have the same freaking experience I had yesterday?
Yeah.
And you're driving to work and you're like, crap, I really don't want to go. Oh my God, I got to see Mrs. Smith again. Oh, I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to do that. That's another problem. And this all goes into the recovery piece. And the last thing, and the reason why I asked about your wife, is work-home interference.
Oh, yeah. It's probably awful for a lot of people. It's probably a key indicator for a lot of divorces out there.
Right.
Is the misunderstanding of each other's problems or hyperfixation of them, too.
Right. Yeah.
Because you can exacerbate a problem all day long. And I felt it already. Like, this isn't even just to veterinary medicine. This is to every profession. Correct. You ask a server. I mean, I did that for 7 years.
I know. We talked about it.
You know how many times I went home and was like, shit, I didn't give them the right change. I forgot to bring ranch to them. I forgot to put that to-go box over there. Who is that helping?
But as a server, though?
I know that it's not as...
As a server, though, I mean, but again, the emotional labor is there because you're in the client or the customer satisfaction sector, right? Same thing with veterinary medicine. You're still in. You're a people. You got to be a people person, and if you're not, the profession's going to be very, very hard. Very hard. Not looking forward to it.
Well, the best thing, I think, just wrapping it back to the students thing.
Yeah.
We haven't entered the field yet, so we still have the opportunity to get the tools required. And that's really what I want to emphasize to veterinary students is if you are already fearing the things that we talked about, find a mentor, find somebody you can ask those questions to and say, how did you deal with it? Or what do you think? You know me better than, a lot of other people, especially people that are close to you. What do you think I should do to encompass to how would I absorb all those things that I'm going to be approaching in the near future?
Yep.
And then say, will that work for me? I'm going to try to apply it when I'm on my clinical rotations.
Yep.
When I'm in there. I mean, I really do watch the mannerisms of doctors.
Yep.
The mannerisms of practice managers, the mannerisms of techs. I'll just tell you right now, I'm on an ER rotation. I had one of the doctors who owns the hospital come out and say, why does nobody know how to use this oxygen chamber? What is happening? Why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? You guys, you don't know how to do this. You don't know what you're doing. Okay, that's great. But have they been taught how to do it? Oh, they should already know. The manual's over there on the computer. I'm like, hey, here's a weird idea. You're complaining about them not being trained. Why don't we train them? Why don't you close for half day and do a training? And I said that in front of the techs. And all of them are like, oh, yeah, we would love to learn how to do that, blah, blah, blah. And it seems like such a simple solution. I get it, money.
But they're exhausted too. They don't want to do that.
But if they're getting paid, it's their job to learn how to do it.
I agree. But I mean, he's the owner, right?
Which is even better.
Right,
he's not a corporate practice.
Well, no, I mean... Well, I guarantee you that owner wasn't a good mentor.
And I don't know.
Right. And then the problem is in the profession, there isn't a good mentor.
Yeah.
Like basic mentorships.
Yeah.
Right? There's no cookbook.
Sure.
Or anything
if it
like
was,
that.
everyone would be able to do it
Exactly.
at that point because the Type A people can read a book.
I know.
And they can recite it to you, regurgitate
and the Type
it.
C people will wait for the movie.
Yeah, literally. That's true, though. I've learned a lot through videos.
Yeah, exactly.
Why are you telling my secrets?
Well, the thing is, okay, so you're talking about mentorship. So when you're looking into a mentor, what are you looking for?
Compatibility. That's the first thing for me right away. Are we compatible?
Okay.
You can be the best, like you said. You can be the best
So
mentor.
how are you compatible?
Well, communication is something that I look at to say, are we the same communicators? What is our love language of communication? How do we do that to each other? Because some people are very receptive of feedback. I am very receptive of feedback, but it's also something I'm learning to deal with, not overanalyzing that feedback and saying their intentions are positive. I do the same thing in my relationship. Is she telling me that in a way of trying to hurt me or build me up?
Right.
And you have to learn that over and over and over again. And I'll say the same dumb shit back. And at the end of the day, when I'm ruminating on that, I'm like, God, I got to do better next time. So if that mentor is coming at me with a collaborative, positive, but also saying things like calling me in and saying, hey, that's a way to do it, if it was a way to do it. But here might be a better way. You should try this next time.
Right.
I see the way that you did it. I get what you were trying to do. That's cool. Or even be like, hey, that's the wrong way. Don't do that.
Right.
That is not the right way to do it. In my mind, if I'm thinking that they have my best intentions at heart and they're looking out for me, I automatically, boom, I'm locked in. I'm lasered in. Hey, they're looking out for me. So I think that's the big thing for me is communication. I would rather you over-communicate than under-communicate. If I'm chasing you around to find you, if I'm in the middle of a surgery and you're not answering your phone when you said you would, instantaneously I've already lost that moment of trust where the next time I'm probably not going to reach out to you.
Right.
And so that's one of the big things for me.
Well, communication is one. I mean, there's many different layers. Friendship,
sure,
social support, introducing you to the network.
Yeah.
The parental figure. All those things are huge. I mean, the trust issue comes with time.
Mm-hmm.
I made sure when I was mentoring, because I love mentoring, I love teaching,
mm-hmm.
I would make sure that my associates understood, I don't care what time it is.
Yeah.
I don't care where I am. You have a question, you call, you text, you do something.
Mm-hmm.
Usually I'd say text me because if, like, I'm here.
Sure.
Right? Or I'm, like, at a kid's game or something. I'm probably not going to hear my phone ring.
Right.
So text me. I'll get back to you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, if it's a true emergency, you call me and call me and call me
Yeah,
and call
yeah.
me until
We'll
I
figure it out.
answer. But it's always, it's really hard when these students do not come out and have that correct mentorship. And I make the argument that if you do have the correct mentorship, you don't need that internship. You will learn what you need to learn in general practice if you have someone that's going to hold your hand and stand behind you. Now, you don't want someone who's going to do everything for you.
Correct. Yeah. See one, do one, teach one.
Yep.
You say that a lot.
I do. You want someone like, hey, I'm going to go in here and do this cystotomy. You're going to be around? Oh, yeah, I'll be standing there right here.
Sure.
Right? I don't need to get in there and scrub in. You know, go for it. A cystotomy is easier. I always used to tell everyone, cystotomy is easier than a spay. You just pop the bladder out, you make a little incision, you get the stones out, you flush, you're good. And it's like mentorship will create that softer landing for those students, right?
And even those, and that's the thing. The beauty about mentorship, it comes in so many different flavors, and you might not know what flavor you like in the beginning or what flavor you hate. And that's the problem with vet students, I feel like. Because if I were to poll and ask a lot of them, like, do you have a true mentor? What do you see in a mentor? Like, you ask me that question, guarantee you a lot of people would be like, a duh.
I'll be able to give you that information August of 26.
Well, I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to read all of it. But, and that's the thing for me. Right now, we're in our safe space. As a vet student, you're in your safe space right now. You can blast out searching for a mentor, SOS. Let me shadow you. Let me take my weekend that I have. I was going to sleep and do all this and you know, do whatever. And sure, that's great to do. But at the same time, you should have that mentor, even if it's a virtual mentor that you're not able to see all the time.
Correct. Ready, vet, go.
Oh, yeah. Shout out Dr. Danny Rabwin.
She's amazing.
Oh, I love her. I just was with her in Vegas having a great time. And
you were?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah.
She's created something that I totally respect.
It's a necessary thing.
But the problem is people don't take advantage of it.
But why? Why? Where is the disconnect? I'm not understanding that.
I have no idea. It's
the people that are getting out there suffering.
I think
and then
selfishly, I think my podcast and your podcast would help thousands of graduating veterinarians.
Okay, so when I graduate, then we're going to go to every single vet school in the entire in the world. We're just going to go everywhere.
I already want to go to every single vet school.
We're going to set up a booth.
I would love to go to a veterinary school. I would love to sit down and do a town hall meeting. Like, blast me with questions. What do you really want to know? Because I'll tell them the truth. Now, it will be my opinion and not the opinion of every other veterinarian, probably.
Sure.
But I will give them my opinion. I don't sugarcoat anything. I mean, that's the one thing I also learned with clients. The one thing I learned to say is, Mrs. Smith, I don't really know how to sugarcoat this.
Yeah. Well, that's transparency. This is why a lot of practices, especially the open concept ones, a lot of people, they disagree with it, they don't like it, but it actually saves them from a lot of lawsuits.
Right.
Too. Which is kind of weird.
But the open concept one, oh my gosh.
But see, exactly.
Oh.
You have your own opinion about it. I couldn't do it just because I
the
think
greatest days of veterinary medicine, in my opinion, were curbside.
And you know how many people resonate with that? A lot of veterinarians resonate with that because they were efficient, they were separated, they could go in, go out, and it was forced upon the client. They didn't have a choice.
Right. And
you didn't have the responsibility.
I didn't pick up a phone, though.
Yeah.
I would go out and talk to them.
Yeah. And see, that's already a better interaction than doing it over the phone.
Yep.
That's why a lot of these companies, they don't even have, some companies don't even have phones ringing in their lobbies.
No, you should have a phone.
They have
phone
call
bank in
centers.
back.
They have the call center areas.
I had my receptionist answering phones in the back.
How annoying is it when you walk into a clinic and you have a dog, and let's say it is an emergency or something, a broken limb or whatever.
I always had a receptionist sitting in back.
Yeah.
Because people want to come in, check in.
Yeah.
I mean, the receptionist job is the hardest job there is in a veterinary clinic. You should be slow to hire, quick to fire up there.
Yeah.
They're the first person they talk to on the phone. They're the first person they see when they walk through the door. They're the last person they see when they say, hey, I need your credit card because here's your bill.
Yeah. Yeah, literally. That's a dangerous role for a really bad employee.
It's the hardest job in a veterinary clinic.
That's awful.
So, I mean, you got to love and respect your receptionist. And if there's ever a client that gives your receptionist crap, they're gone. You know? I love firing clients. You know, it's like, sorry. They're like, oh, I'm going to destroy you on Yelp. Good. Join the other 1,000 people who have. Don't care. Because the people who know me and trust me have always given the word of mouth that I'm good.
And it travels fast.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, electronic word of mouth is scary because, you know, one happy person tells 10 people, right? One upset client tells the world. That's the problem. And I didn't really have a problem with Google review and Yelp and all that until my daughter saw something that someone wrote.
And what happened?
She's like, Dad, why did they write this about you? And that's when I was like, you know, we had... When most parents sit down for the talk, you know?
The Google review talk.
We had the Google review talk.
Listen, honey.
Back in the day,
they
when I was beating up dinosaurs, according to Garth, if you had a problem with someone, you talk face to face and you'd probably duke it out and it's over. That no more, man. All these people that used to be bullied and all that, they become the keyboard warrior, right? Let me destroy this person or try to.
But you're a Baldosaurus Rex. You don't even need anybody.
I don't really care anymore.
Well, because you've also, I think that's your mindset too.
Right.
You know, like you said, you know your truth.
Right.
And that's what makes you an outlier in a lot of these professions too.
Right.
And sometimes it's hard to not listen to that. You hear it and you're like, oh, crap. Yeah, that just,
no,
I am kind of like that.
No, you got to learn to take those negative reviews and make that fuel for your fire. You can either take it and let it destroy you or take it and be like, oh, this guy thinks, or this person thinks, or this woman thinks.
Yeah.
Make sure you do 100% the opposite with the next client you see.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I already experienced it too recently. I'll just fill you in with something real quick. So I did an ad for a company, and long story short, there was some miscommunication, and we're fixing it, thank God, because I do love the company. I really do. Something I believe in. And the way it was cut from the third party that did do it, it looked really bad. Like, basically, I was, like, shaming people for feeding kibble, which is not something I ever even believe in. Yeah, I went down that rabbit hole. And someone wrote me and was like, you're the reason why vets are killing themselves. And I read that, and it caught me off guard because I didn't know anything was published yet. I had no idea. And so I was like, what? What the fuck? I literally said, what the fuck? And then I looked at it, and I was like, that's hateful. And then, like, 5 other messages after were from veterinary influencers, and they know me. And they're like, hey, did you get hacked? Like, that was some of them. Hey, this isn't your message. Someone wrote me from the Philippines and was like, hey, I listened to your show. This isn't your message. Is this AI? Is what someone said. And so that, to me, like, that made me actually happy because the people that I do know or even didn't know and that have actually followed my progress through time and listened to my show, they know that that wasn't me.
Correct.
And so for me, instantaneously, some people would read that, and I was kind of pissed more than anything. I wasn't sad. I was like, who does this person think they are? And the worst part was when I looked into it, they were actually a vet.
Were they really?
Yeah.
See, back in the day, well, when Yelp first came up,
which is crazy.
There are other veterinarians that would. I want to see if I can pull up a cool one for you, for me. But you know, the thing is, veterinary clinics used to write bad reviews about other veterinary clinics to steal their clients. So it was crazy.
I could see that though. People do that in all different types of fields.
Yeah.
Human surgeons do that to each other.
Yeah.
Sabotage.
Well,
I had a hernia repair.
I was 5-star, and then they ran it into the ground.
Oh, hey, I drove by your old clinic.
Yeah, the doors are closed.
I know.
Makes me so sad.
Made me sad when I drove by. I almost bought it. It's for lease right now.
Oh, my gosh. Listen to this one. There isn't anything they don't need improving on. They are absolute worst at everything they do. The business is not even there. How can this app still show them open? Building appears empty. They don't even deserve 1 star. They killed my precious boy, my love of my life. He was having a seizure at the office, and I was about to leave. Earlier, I was told the seizure caused fluid in his lungs, and he was seizing. I asked, how do I keep fluid out of his lungs? He's having a seizure right now, and I was told he was given a Lasix. His lungs should right themselves. They said I had to go to the emergency. I had to go. They were closing. Did we really just say I had to go, that we were closing? Or
locking the door on them?
Yeah.
Bye.
What did I say? Go to the emergency clinic. And what did they tell me?
They're closing the doors. So that there's
Yep.
That was an outlet for them to not take responsibility in that moment, is what it was. Emotional responsibility. People deflect that. They don't want to be, and it's understandable. They're in emotional turmoil at that point, but at the same time, tearing people down that's not going to solve it.
But yeah, there's some. I mean, it was crazy after I left, dude. It went awful. But I'm trying to find. There's so many here. Oh well, I wasn't there for that one. There's some on these. They're great ones about me. But as soon as we sold, it went bad. I mean, you can kind of look here.
Mm-hmm.
Like this happens. I worked here for a couple days several years ago, and as a result of what I saw, I quit. I wouldn't bring your pet here. I bet you we fired that person.
Sure.
But you
don't have the ability to explain anything.
Yeah.
And that's the crazy thing. I mean,
I didn't realize how terrible this place was until I moved and found a real vet who knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Oh.
But you hear that everywhere. I mean, I just heard it in the ER.
Did you really?
I just heard it in the ER because someone came and he kept saying, my dog has like 3 days to live. Like, let's just manage this. Dog has lymphoma.
This is the one I was looking for.
Oh, go ahead.
Ready?
Yeah, I want to hear it.
Whoever answered the phone at 9:50 a.m. this morning should be fired immediately and should go to hell.
Jesus.
I was crying. My 15-year-old dog is dying, and the asshole woman laughed at me on the phone. My dog is in pain. I need help, and this bitch laughed. The doctors are fine if you can get past their incompetent, stupid, and insensitive bitches at the desk. I will never go back. Dexter died in pain while I was trying to get help. The funny thing is, 2 months prior, this hospital has been my lifesaver in the past few months. I have an old cat, almost 18. Dr. J is so calm, and he just picks up the cat and says, well, this is what we will do, and I have my cat with me tonight, and that is the only thing I wanted for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got to deal with that type of shit.
It's like a bipolar Yelp review page. Well, that's the thing, though, too, is these keyboard warriors will never say that to your face. They don't want to say it to get a resolution out of it.
Right.
They want to get an uprising.
Correct.
They want to try to tear you down to nothing.
To nothing.
And if you give them the smallest window of that,
they'll do it.
And they will do it.
So everyone listening, let's make a pact. And it's a hard pact to make.
Mm-hmm.
Stay off your phones. Don't read your reviews. Be the best person you can. Be the best doctor you can. And things will be okay.
And be true to yourself, too.
Correct.
I think that's the biggest thing. If you're true to yourself, none of that shit's going to matter.
Correct. Know who you are, knowing your abilities. You made it through one of the hardest curriculums there is. Love it, embrace it, and be the best you can be. That's what I would say. Mm-hmm. That's all I would have to say to these people. So, well, anyways, Garth, it's been a pleasure, my man.
Always love talking with you.
We'll have to do it again.
Absolutely. I'm always here.
Do it again.
Woo!
Yeah.
See
Talk to y'all soon.
Hey, around we